All right, so one thing I forgot to do was these two little pieces that rig up right there on that little V. They're kind of loose looking, and so I have to cut the easy line a little longer than it needs to be. But I just took a piece and put a little piece of glue on it, dipped it in super glue, and it sticks really, really readily and quickly right where you want it on that other piece of previous rigging. And then you take the other side, dip it in to the glue, and again, these things, they adhere really readily, really fast. And you just got to take a very steady hand and just put it where it needs to be, which would be kind of even. And based on the pictures I've seen, I'm just setting it right there, and then you just let it dangle. And then the key is to cut it to the right length so that you get the right sort of lay on it, because otherwise it'll look funny. You don't want it to be don't want it to be tight. You want it to have a little looseness to it, and it turned out pretty well in the end. But what I did was put a little bit of zip kicker on the end of the easy line that was going to attach to the top of the conning tower. Then I put a little tiny bit of glue using a brass stick, piece of brass wire, where it's supposed to go onto the top of the conning tower. There's a little white spot there in the kit, shows you where it's supposed to go. And then I just plop that right into the blob of glue. Just like when I rig airplanes, that's kind of the way it works. And then that dried, and it looked very passable. It draped pretty well. I kind of liked it. Do the same thing with the other side. Get it in place in this case. And once I got it kind of in place, holding it, then I put a little bit of glue down and then brought the piece of easy line to that point. And there it is, all together. And that was the officially last piece of rigging that needed to be done. It worked very well. I'm just making sure it looks good and it's sitting the way it's supposed to. And there they are. So that's that piece. All the rigging is done. I touched up those little blobs, or I do in a couple minutes here. I touch up those little blobs and painted them gray ultimately. But there it is. All the basic parts are finished finally, and it's a looker. And so now the next thing I wanted to do was play around with pastels to make a little weathering. So I took my pastels, and all I do is rub blacks and browns and kind of rusty looking colors, what I think would look half decent, onto some sandpaper, then take a brush and just basically load a brush with it. And then where you think there should be little runs, little differences in texture and color, basically I tried to hit all of those little openings where the water pours out. And then a couple other places along the hull here and there, and on the deck. So this is just showing about, sort of the technique. Just kind of don't be afraid to put it on. If you put on too much, you can kind of get some of it off, although this stuff is pretty tenacious. It's surprising. It's just pastel, but you do have to put it on, I would say, light, because lighter is better, and if you need more, you can always add. Removing it can be a little difficult. You can smear it off a little bit, but you still have a residual. And sometimes it's just perfect, so you got to sort of experiment. But I just did that on all of these little pieces, and made sure it looked pretty good. So here it is with all of the parts, all of the pastels on. You can see it's kind of subtle, but I wanted it that way. You don't want to look filthy, but I wanted to look used. So I put some around that keel piece and then on all of those little holes and a couple other places just to make it look interesting. I do like it. It's not stark. Again, they were called pig boats, I think, but I don't want it to be just dirty. You don't want it to be really horrible. But it's kind of nice. It does make it look a little more used. Makes it look kind of heavy. Looks like it's more made of metal. So putting a little pastel weathering on there is good. I could have used the airbrush. It's just that I didn't want to go outside in the garage because I got a bum knee at this point. But anyway, there it is, all done. What a really nice project. Didn't take that long to put together. Really unique. Haven't seen this type of sub anywhere. There are some resin and some plastic ones of a similar boat, but not in this scale. Boy, if you want to get a nice model, paper model, pick this one up.